You've mentioned the words discipline and Columbus. Perfect transition. Look at this from the Columbus Dispatch, a Brian Hedger article. Patrik Laine had an off-ice interaction with an assistant coach. An NHL source said Laine, quote, mouthed off, unquote, to one of the Blue Jackets' assistant coaches. And another source with knowledge of the situation confirmed that account. It's unknown what Laine said or whom he said it to, but whatever it was prompted head coach John Tortorella to keep the team's newly acquired star stuck to the bench in a 2-2 game. I will tell you, I had the opportunity to have dinner with John Tortorella in the brief time that he was here. I always tried to be around him because he is just, I was a sponge trying to learn as much as I could from him. We had dinner one night and we talked about culture. He said, everybody uses the word culture in sports. It's the buzzword. How do you create culture? It's an easy word to say. It's a hard word to do. And what he meant was you've got to hold everybody accountable. Clearly, this is an instance where the new guy, the shiny new toy, the guy who hit the beautiful power play goal that you and I were oohing and eyeing over, he was held accountable for mouthing off, quote unquote, to an assistant. Do you agree with it?
Oh, absolutely. That's not even a hockey-related situation. It's within the team, but it's not an on-ice mistake. And that's where I think the projections of everybody was thinking, what did he do so wrong on the ice? It's a system. He hasn't been on the team that long. But to me, this isn't even a hockey-related situation. This is a personality situation. This is disrespecting the leadership group on the team. That'd be like going into the captain in your first game and undressing him in the locker room in front of your team. It's like, no, this isn't going to happen. Mm-hmm. So this is absolutely new light, and I did not expect something like this to come out. First of all, I wouldn't have expected that from Patrik Laine. I mean, that's something that he hasn't been known for is disrespecting leadership, disrespecting coaches. But no question, John Tortorella is in the right. If he's going to take care of his players, but he's first going to take care of his coaches. They're your brothers. They're the ones who sit and make up game plans and go through the good and bad together as to, they're there before the players, they're there after the players. So I completely see a different picture as to why the benching happened. And again, not hockey-related in my mind. To me, that's not a hockey-related issue. That is a respect issue, and it's a personality issue. So gives it completely different light. Hopefully we get that confirmed again, that was the case. And Tort's assistants benefit from his tutelage. The name Mike Sullivan comes to mind, back-to-back Stanley Cups. Perry, your take on this, it shines new light, as Reader says. So now, understanding what happened, do you think that it was the right decision by John Tortorella?
100%. Like Reader, I'm shocked. Like you said, Laine's not known for something like this. But with the hockey, the teams, the coaching staff, it's like a military. There's a chain of command. And even if it's an assistant coach or a captain, no matter what it is, but when it's assistant coach, that's a part of the head coach. That's an extension of the head coach. You treat every coach like you would treat your head coach. And as Torts has to react that way because it's more or less mouthing off to him. The head coach is assistant coaches are passing on the word of the head coach. And I'm totally shocked and 100% behind the benching. And I'd kind of be one of those things where I'd almost look for it to be a game. But I think Laine is lucky enough that Torts is intelligent enough to not want to make the team pay for it with taking away such a weapon on the ice. But, insubordination at its best.
This is fascinating stuff. Great report. Our crew staying on top of it. Thanks to them.
Brian Hedger of the Columbus Dispatch tweets out, an NHL source said Laine, quote, mouthed off to one of the Blue Jackets' assistant coaches. And another source with knowledge of the situation confirmed that account. It's unknown what Laine said or whom he said it to, but whatever it was prompted head coach John Tortorella to keep the team's newly acquired star stuck to the bench in a 2-2 game. Whoa. Do you think this relationship went sour this quickly? What do you think happened there on the bench in Columbus?
Not being on the bench with them, it's hard to know. I played for all the coaches on that staff, for the majority of them anyways, and know them all well. It's a tough one. This is really difficult because they just traded for him. Clearly, he's a new acquisition, is excited about coming there. Much was made about the departure of Dubois and the exchange, and Rosovich coming in as a hometown kid who's been great so far. Laine's come in, he scored some goals. As expected, this guy has a chance to be perhaps their best pure goal scorer since Rick Nash or Artemi Panarin, who they had there a couple years ago, who was a league MVP Hart Trophy finalist last year. But not being on the bench, I'm not sure all the details. They're trying to keep it in-house. But I can tell you from being on a bench or being on the ice, this happens quite a lot. It doesn't always make it right. And sometimes it can be the coach that maybe is in the wrong. At other times I've seen it where it's the player who's in the wrong. The way it's explained now, it sounds like it's the player that might have been in the wrong, but I don't know what or how something was said to precipitate that. But either way, these types of disputes do happen, and they happen quite often on the bench. It's such a hyper-competitive environment with a lot of A-type personalities. But if Coach Tortorella felt like it was offside, so to speak, or over the line, he's well within his right to make that decision.
It just seems like this is the last thing that this team needs based on the distraction that we just saw a couple of weeks ago with Pierre-Luc Dubois. It seems like they had overcome that and focused back on the results on the ice. And now this, and it seems like this is the last thing they need based on how they're playing right now because they got to get it figured out there first.
Yeah, I mean, and what's hard is, you know, I've sat here in our studio for the last 3 years always talking about how great Columbus are, what I love about their drafting, developing, which I do, and the culture that they've been able to establish. And I know, again, people top through tail in that organization. I think the challenge, though, becomes at some point you have so many character people in that group and you have so many character players within that team and really good guys and good pros. But at some point, you hope that they can get all these types of things cleaned up, right? Like you've got young players that are good young players in that group that I really like. But at some point, you just want this to be an instance where this isn't a reoccurring theme. It's not something that happens often or weekly or bi-weekly because they do have a really good, talented team with some nice pieces. 2 superstar defensemen on the back end with Werenski and Seth Jones. Outstanding goalies with Korpisalo, who was an all-star, and Merzlikins, who was great down the stretch last year. A lot of things to like about this team, JMO, in short. And Foligno, who's a second-generation NHLer, whose dad, Mike Foligno, played for years. Great as the captain. There's leadership there. But at some point, these types of things have to stop because they're happening far too often. And at some point, other people around the league or other players are going to say, okay, well, what's going on? Do I want to play there? Do I not want to play there? Is it situational? Is it the onus on all the players? Is it on every player? Those are the types of questions that you don't want to have. It's a great place to play. They got a great building, practice rink within the building. They've got a really good young team that's on the rise. You want to keep those good vibes going and what they're building upon and not have these types of distractions.
And came in second in the Central Division, 2 points behind the Tampa Bay Lightning. Florida jumps them, so now they drop down to third, having the off night. And you take a look at the schedule upcoming, and that is a very tough division. They got the Hawks, who we talked about earlier. They're overachieving, surprising team. Tied 1-1 late in the third right now against the team that went to the Stanley Cup final a year ago. Then Carolina, another tough team, and then I mean, there are no easy games, but Nashville still trying to kind of find their way. Where do you think this goes for Columbus? Again, we don't have all the details.
Sure.
We can only react to the stuff that is out there and is being reported. But do you think this is a situation that can, you know, get rectified pretty quickly and they can get right back to doing what they need to do, and that's producing W's on the ice?
You hope so. I mean, you hope that that's the case. And as mentioned, they have a lot of character in that room, and I like a lot of their players in their group. You know, again, from their trainer, Timmy Leroy, to different people in their organization, I know them well. They're doing great things there. They're building. They're on the right trajectory. But keep in mind, they've won 1 playoff round now. That's not a lot in their history, but they're doing some good things. They've drafted well. They're developing well. You want to continue to make your team a destination where players want to come to play and people want to come to work. They're on the right track in building that. I think they have a lot of good things going for them, but these are the types of things that can't keep popping up. If they continue popping up, then it's going to beg some questions around the league, and you don't want that because they're doing well right now.
Guys get benched all the time, right? We just don't maybe put it under the magnifying glass, much like we do Columbus, based on Pierre-Luc Dubois and John Tortorella, and then Patrik Laine coming in. This is something that happens. You have a bad game or you have a tough shift, you get sat for a little bit, right? This is not out of the ordinary.
No, getting sat isn't out of the ordinary. That's not out of the ordinary at all. And as mentioned, some of these spats on the benches or in the locker room, you were asking me questions offline, and we were talking about that. These things can tend to happen. It doesn't always make them right, but they are fairly common in such a hyper-competitive environment with this many emotions that run through the players and the coaches and everybody involved. The key is, though, keeping those things to a minimum where possible and continuing to build on the good vibes. Columbus has a lot of good things going for them, but you need to continue to double down on those things and try to mitigate these types of things from happening. Because again, players talk and agents talk and people talk. I'm on my phone every day, long before we come in the studio.
You're on your phone when you're talking,
and while we're
not on camera.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
Multitasking. Yes.
Yeah, and we're in the people business, right? Like at some point in time, people have those conversations, and you want to be in an environment where you feel comfortable and where you enjoy coming to work. And they have built a good culture there, but you want to see them as an NHL stakeholder, if we are, or stewards of the league. We want to continue to see them doing the good things that they're doing and just try to mitigate these types of things because they're happening a little bit too often right now, unfortunately.